My name is Lisa, and my story is one of shattered dreams, betrayal, and unexpected strength. At 29, I was a successful online entrepreneur in Dallas, Texas, earning around $30,000 a month. On the surface, my life seemed perfect, financially stable, working from the comfort of my home, and enjoying the independence I had worked so hard for. But behind the scenes, my world was far from ideal. I was married to Ryan, a man I once believed was my partner in life. We met in college, full of dreams and ambition, and tied the knot 3 years ago, thinking love would carry us through.
For a while, it did.
But the facade of our happy marriage began to crumble when Ryan lost his job 8 months ago. I didn't mind stepping up to support us at first. I had built my business from scratch and felt confident I could handle the financial burden for a while. What I hadn't anticipated was the shift in dynamics. Instead of working together to weather the storm, Ryan became indifferent, and his mother, Evelyn, began to exert her control. Evelyn, a woman in her late 50s, was relentless. She had a knack for making her greed sound like family loyalty. "You're so fortunate, Lisa," she would say with an insincere smile. "It's only right to share your blessings with those who love you." The first time she asked for money, it was for a luxury resort vacation. I hesitated, unsure whether I should give in. Ryan, however, urged me to help her, insisting, "She's my mom, Lisa. It's just this once." That once quickly became a pattern. Evelyn's requests grew bolder with each passing month. New clothes, expensive jewelry, spa days. Her list of demands seemed endless. Every time I protested, Ryan brushed it off, saying, "It's just money, Lisa. You'll make more." I soon realized that Evelyn wasn't just controlling Ryan, she was trying to control me too. And the breaking point came one evening when she demanded an extra $5,000 for a shopping spree. "I'm not giving you that," I said firmly. "You've already taken enough." Evelyn's face twisted in anger. Before I could react, she grabbed a baseball bat from the corner of the room and struck me hard. I fell to the floor, stunned and in pain, as Ryan stood by, doing nothing. "You're ungrateful," Evelyn spat. "After everything we've done for you." I looked up at Ryan, hoping for some kind of defense, but he just stood there, his silence cutting deeper than Evelyn's words. That night, as I sat alone nursing my bruises, something inside me shifted. Anger and humiliation gave way to clarity. I couldn't live like this anymore. I packed a bag, left the house, and vowed to take back control of my life. The next morning, when Ryan and Evelyn woke up, they found an unexpected surprise: a locked house, an empty joint account, and a note that simply read, "You made your choice. Now I'm making mine." Evelyn's face turned redder, her anger visibly rising. "Don't you dare speak to me that way. Ryan is doing his best. You're the one who's making this marriage miserable," she yelled. I turned to Ryan, hoping he would defend me. He sat on the couch, silent and motionless, refusing to meet my eyes. His inaction stung more than Evelyn's words. "Are you just going to sit there and let her talk to me like this?" I demanded. Ryan finally looked up, but instead of backing me up, he muttered, "Maybe you could try being more understanding, Lisa. Mom's just going through a lot." The betrayal hit me like a wave. I had been breaking my back to support the both of them while he stayed at home, doing little to help. And yet, here he was, choosing to side with his mother over his wife. Evelyn sneered, clearly emboldened by Ryan's weak defense. "You're so ungrateful, Lisa. After everything I've done for you, you can't even show a little generosity." "Everything you've done for me?" I laughed bitterly. "What exactly have you done, Evelyn? Besides treat me like your personal ATM." The room went quiet for a moment, but it was the kind of quiet that feels like the calm before a storm. Evelyn stormed over to the corner of the room and grabbed a baseball bat leaning against the wall. "You spoiled brat," she screamed. Before I could react, she swung it at me, hitting me hard on the shoulder. Pain shot through my body as I fell to the floor. I clutched my arm, tears streaming down my face, not just from the physical pain but from the emotional betrayal. I looked up at Ryan, pleading silently for him to do something, to step in and stop his mother. But he just sat there, frozen, his face blank. "Get out of this house," Evelyn yelled, standing over me like a vulture. I pulled myself up, ignoring the throbbing pain in my arm. "You want me gone? Fine. I'll leave," I said, my voice steady despite the tears in my eyes. "But don't think for a second that this is over." I grabbed my bag and walked out the door. That night, as I sat alone in a hotel room, I made a promise to myself. I wasn't going to let them win. I wasn't going to let them walk all over me anymore. The next morning, Evelyn and Ryan woke up to find the locks on the house changed, their access to my bank account revoked, and all the bills they had been enjoying suddenly transferred to their names. On the kitchen counter sat a simple note. "You wanted me gone. Wish granted. Good luck paying for everything without me." As I shoved the last of my clothes into a suitcase, I glanced around the home I had worked so hard to support. Every piece of furniture, every appliance, and every utility was paid for with my sweat and tears. Yet, it was a place where I felt utterly powerless and unwelcome. By the time I zipped up my bag, my anger had turned into a quiet, searing resolve. Evelyn wanted to treat me like I didn't belong? Fine. I'd leave, but not before making sure they understood what it meant to lose me. I spent the rest of the night at a hotel, nursing my bruised face and making calls. First to the bank, freezing every joint account and canceling the cards Evelyn and Ryan had been using freely. Then to the utilities company, transferring all the bills under their names. By morning, the mortgage, internet, electricity, and every subscription they enjoyed would no longer be my responsibility. The final call was to a locksmith. Early the next day, I returned to the house. I wasn't scared of Evelyn anymore. She thrived on control, and I wasn't going to let her control me for a second longer. With the locksmith working on changing the locks, I left a note on the kitchen counter, simple and to the point. "Evelyn and Ryan, you wanted me gone, so I left. The house is no longer my problem. Neither are the bills or the luxury you've been leeching off me. Good luck finding someone else to bankroll your lifestyle." I placed my wedding ring beside the note and walked out. Later that day, the calls started pouring in. Ryan's number flashed on my phone repeatedly, but I didn't answer. Next, it was Evelyn, leaving venomous voicemails about how I'd betrayed the family. Her words were full of rage, calling me selfish and petty for leaving. But I didn't feel guilty, not anymore. They had taken me for granted, treated me like a tool to be used. Now they were reaping what they sowed. A week later, I found a small apartment in the city and started my life over. It wasn't easy, but it was freeing. My business thrived without their demands weighing me down, and I finally had the energy to focus on my own happiness. Evelyn and Ryan's lives, on the other hand, spiraled quickly. The bank foreclosed on the house within months, and their credit cards were maxed out with no way to pay them off. Ryan eventually reached out, begging me to take him back, claiming he'd made a mistake. But I had made my decision. I wasn't going back to a life where I was undervalued and mistreated. I had rebuilt myself from the ground up, and I wasn't about to let anyone tear me down again. From that point on, I learned to choose myself first. No amount of manipulation or guilt could undo the strength I had gained. I was free, independent, and thriving, and for the first time in years, I was truly happy. After hanging up, I sat quietly, gripping my phone. Ryan's apology, if it could even be called that, was just another hollow attempt to absolve himself without taking real responsibility. It only fueled my resolve to move forward with my plan. Over the next week, I worked with my lawyer to gather everything I needed. Bank statements showing how I had covered every expense, text messages from Evelyn demanding money, and the voicemail she left the night I walked out. Each piece of evidence painted a clear picture of the manipulation and abuse I had endured. True to my lawyer's advice, I made no contact with Evelyn or Ryan. Instead, I focused on securing my business and building a future that didn't include them. But just as I started to feel some stability, Evelyn made her move. One afternoon, I received a letter in the mail, an official-looking document stamped with a lawyer's logo. It was a notice of intention to contest ownership of the house. According to Evelyn, Since I had been the primary breadwinner, I was responsible for maintaining the mortgage, even though my name wasn't on the deed. The audacity left me speechless for a moment. Evelyn wasn't just trying to bleed me dry, she was trying to trap me into financially supporting her and Ryan even after I had left. I called my lawyer immediately. "This is her move?" I asked, barely keeping my frustration in check. "She's trying to intimidate you," my lawyer said calmly. "Don't worry. This works in your favor. If she wants to drag this into court, we'll counter with a claim for unjust enrichment. After all, you paid for everything." The strategy was clear now. I would fight her not just to escape, but to take back what was rightfully mine. A month later, we faced off in mediation. Ryan sat across the table from me, avoiding my gaze, while Evelyn glared daggers in my direction. Her lawyer rattled off a list of grievances, painting me as an ungrateful daughter-in-law who had abandoned her family. When it was my turn to speak, I stayed calm. I paid every bill in that house. I bought the groceries, covered the mortgage, and even paid for Evelyn's personal luxuries, I said, placing a stack of evidence on the table, all while being disrespected, manipulated, and, ultimately, physically attacked. Evelyn's lawyer shifted uncomfortably as my lawyer presented copies of the texts and voicemails. The turning point came when we revealed my counterclaim for full ownership of the house. "You can't do that," Evelyn shouted, her composure cracking. "Actually, I can," I replied, meeting her glare with unwavering confidence. In the end, they caved. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Ryan and Evelyn agreed to transfer the house to my name and vacate within 30 days. The moment the papers were signed, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. On the day Evelyn and Ryan moved out, I stood on the front lawn, watching as the last of their belongings were loaded into a truck. Evelyn shot me one final venomous look, but I didn't care. This house was mine now, not just in name, but as a symbol of everything I had endured and overcome. As I walked inside and closed the door behind me, I realized I wasn't just free, I was finally in control of my life. Later that evening, I couldn't shake the lingering tension from the confrontation. As much as I enjoyed watching Ryan and Evelyn squirm, their sudden willingness to change felt too convenient. I knew better than to trust them outright, but I was determined to see how far they'd go to make amends or save themselves. The following day, I met with my lawyer to draft the necessary documents for the house transfer. I wanted everything airtight, no loopholes, no way for them to wriggle out of the agreement later. "This is a bold move," my lawyer remarked as we reviewed the terms. "Are you prepared if they back out?" I smiled, the kind of smile that came from months of being underestimated. "Oh, they won't back out. Not if they think it's the only way to keep me from filing for divorce." The next week, Ryan and Evelyn arrived at my lawyer's office. I sat across from them, calm and collected, as they glanced nervously at the thick stack of papers before them. "This is everything," my lawyer explained, sliding the documents across the table. "Once you sign, the property will be officially transferred to Lisa." Evelyn's hand trembled as she picked up the pen. "I don't see why this is necessary," she muttered. "We're trying to make peace, not give away our home." I leaned forward, my voice icy. "The house wouldn't even exist if it weren't for me. I paid for everything while you used me and treated me like dirt. If you're serious about making things right, then prove it." Ryan sighed heavily, his gaze flickering between me and the documents. "Just sign it, Mom," he said quietly. "It's the only way." Evelyn shot him a glare but ultimately relented, scrawling her name on the dotted lines with visible resentment. When the last signature was in place, my lawyer took the papers with a satisfied nod. "It's done. The house is now legally Lisa's." Evelyn's face was a storm of barely contained fury, but Ryan tried to mask his defeat with a forced smile. "We've done what you asked," he said. "Now, can we move forward?" I stood, gathering my things. "Moving forward? That's entirely up to you. But I'll say this, I'm done being your victim." As I walked out of the office, a wave of empowerment washed over me. The house was mine, and with it, the ultimate proof that I was no longer under their control. It wasn't just about the property, it was about reclaiming my life, my worth, and my independence. Whatever came next, I knew I was ready for it. "I've heard enough," I said, my voice steady. "You both had every chance to treat me with respect. Instead, you chose to manipulate and abuse me. I'm not afraid of you anymore." Ryan's smirk faltered, and Evelyn's face flushed with anger, but I didn't back down. The weight of their manipulation no longer held power over me. As they left my parents' house, Evelyn muttered something under her breath, but I didn't care. I had won the first battle, and the victory felt liberating. The house was mine, but more importantly, I had reclaimed my self-worth. The next few weeks were transformative. I moved into my house, redecorating it to reflect my personality, bright, welcoming, and full of life. Gone were the heavy, outdated furnishings Evelyn had insisted on keeping. In their place were vibrant colors, cozy spaces, and a sense of freedom. Friends and neighbors noticed the change. "This place feels so you now," Emma said when she visited. "It's amazing what you've done." But the transformation wasn't just physical. I felt lighter, stronger, and more in control of my life than ever before. My business flourished as I poured my energy into it, and I began building new relationships, ones built on mutual respect and trust. One day, I received an unexpected call from Ryan. "Lisa," he began, his voice softer than I'd heard in years. "Can we talk? I've been thinking about everything, and I want to apologize. I know I've made mistakes." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to hang up, but another part wanted to hear what he had to say. "Go on," I said cautiously. "I've been reflecting on how I treated you, how Mom treated you," he continued. "It was wrong. You didn't deserve that." His words sounded sincere, but I'd learned to be cautious. "Why now, Ryan? What's changed?" There was a long pause before he replied. "I guess I lost something good, and I didn't realize it until it was gone." I sighed. "Ryan, I've moved on. You and Evelyn broke my trust in ways that can't be repaired overnight. I appreciate the apology, but I need more than words." "What do you mean?" he asked. "If you're serious about making amends, prove it with actions, not just empty promises," I said firmly. "But don't expect me to come running back. I've built a life I'm proud of, and I won't let anyone jeopardize that." Ryan was silent for a moment, then muttered, "I understand. Take care, Lisa." After hanging up, I felt a surprising sense of closure. Whether Ryan's apology was genuine or another manipulation didn't matter. I had drawn a line, and this time I wasn't crossing it. The house, my business, my life, they were mine now. And as I stood in the middle of my newly redecorated living room, sunlight streaming through the windows, I realized something important. I didn't need their validation or approval anymore. I had found my strength, and no one could take it away from me. Ryan fell silent, and for a moment, all I could hear was my own heartbeat. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and almost sinister. "You'll regret this, Lisa. You can't just walk away and expect everything to work out." I clenched the phone tightly. "The only thing I regret is not walking away sooner." I hung up, cutting him off mid-sentence. The conversation left me shaken but more determined than ever. Ryan's threats and Evelyn's manipulation would no longer dictate my life. The legal proceedings began. And true to form, Ryan and Evelyn tried to make things as difficult as possible. They contested everything from the divorce terms to the property transfer. But I had done my homework, prepared meticulously, and had my lawyer by my side. In the courtroom, Ryan attempted to paint himself as the victim, claiming that I had abandoned him during a difficult time. Evelyn, playing her role to perfection, portrayed herself as a caring mother-in-law who only wanted to help keep the family together. But their narrative unraveled under scrutiny. I presented evidence of the financial burden I had carried, the abuse I had endured, and the blatant disregard for my well-being. Text messages, bank statements, and even security footage from my parents' home told the real story. By the end of the proceedings, the judge ruled in my favor. The divorce was finalized, and the house remained mine. Evelyn and Ryan tried one last desperate tactic, showing up at the bakery I had recently started. My business had become my sanctuary, a place where I could pour my creativity and build something that was truly mine. "Lisa, let's talk," Evelyn said, her tone dripping with false sweetness as she entered the shop uninvited. Ryan stood behind her, looking sheepish. I crossed my arms. "This is my business. You're not welcome here." "Don't be like this," she said, trying to play the victim. "Families fight. It doesn't mean we should tear everything apart." "That's rich coming from someone who told me I didn't belong in their family," I shot back. "You didn't want me. You wanted my money." Ryan stepped forward, his voice quieter. "Lisa, please. We've lost so much. Can't we at least try to fix this?" "Fix this?" I laughed bitterly. "You had years to treat me with respect. I'm done waiting for you to change." Evelyn's mask slipped. "You'll regret this, Lisa. You'll end up alone." I smiled, calm and resolute. "I'd rather be alone than let either of you back into my life." As they left the bakery, I felt a deep sense of closure. They had tried every trick in the book, but I had stood my ground and emerged stronger. In the weeks that followed, my bakery thrived. Customers flocked in for the delicious treats, and I built a supportive network of friends and colleagues. My life was mine again, free from manipulation and filled with possibilities. For the first time in years, I felt at peace. No more toxic relationships. No more being used. Just me, my business, and a future I could shape on my own terms. The courtroom felt heavy with tension as proceedings began. My lawyer presented a clear and compelling case, detailing the financial abuse, emotional manipulation, and physical attack that had driven me to leave. Each piece of evidence, texts, emails, and financial records, painted a vivid picture of my life with Ryan and Evelyn. Ryan's lawyer attempted to turn the tables, claiming I had abandoned the marriage out of selfishness, but their argument crumbled under the weight of the truth. My lawyer's sharp questioning revealed their inconsistencies and exposed Evelyn's overbearing interference in our lives. Evelyn couldn't contain herself and interrupted the proceedings, shouting, "This is all exaggerated. Lisa has always been dramatic." The judge, unimpressed, silenced her with a stern warning. "If you disrupt this court again, you'll be removed." I caught Ryan's stealing glances at me, a mix of guilt and resentment in his eyes. He looked like a man who had lost control of the narrative, watching everything he and Evelyn had tried to manipulate slip through their fingers. When the final ruling came, it was clear. The divorce was granted in my favor. I was awarded sole ownership of the house and a protective order against any further harassment from Ryan or Evelyn. Ryan slumped in his seat, his face a mask of defeat. Evelyn, however, was seething, her anger barely contained as she stormed out of the courtroom without even looking back. Walking out of that courthouse felt like shedding a heavy weight I'd been carrying for years. My parents were waiting outside, their faces filled with pride and relief. My mom hugged me tightly. "You did it, Lisa," she said, tears in her eyes. "You took your life back." That evening, I returned to my house, a house that now felt like a true home for the first time. I walked through each room, reclaiming the space as my own. The silence was no longer oppressive, it was peaceful. In the weeks that followed, I poured my energy into creating a life I could truly call my own. I redecorated the house, transforming it into a space that reflected my personality and joy. I focused on growing my career, taking on new clients, and expanding my business. Surprisingly, I began to hear whispers through mutual acquaintances about Evelyn and Ryan. Their finances had spiraled out of control without my income to support them. Evelyn had even resorted to selling her jewelry to cover debts. I felt no satisfaction in their downfall, only a quiet reassurance that I had made the right choice. One day, as I was working in my garden, my phone buzzed with a message from a number I didn't recognize. It was from Ryan. "I'm sorry for everything. I've lost everything. Please, can we talk?" I stared at the message for a long moment before deleting it without responding. Some doors are better left closed. With time, the scars of my past began to heal. I learned to value myself, to stand firm against manipulation, and to trust my instincts. My life was no longer defined by their control or their drama. It was mine, and it was beautiful. Every time I walked through the door of my house, I was reminded of my strength, my resilience, and the freedom I had fought so hard to achieve. As I walked out of the courthouse, the world seemed brighter, lighter. I had fought for my freedom and won. For the first time in years, I felt truly in control of my life. The weight of Ryan and Evelyn's manipulation no longer hung over me, and every step I took away from that building was a step toward a brighter future. I returned to the house that was now solely mine, a house that symbolized more than just bricks and walls. It was a testament to my strength and resilience. The rooms, once filled with tension and control, now echoed with a sense of peace. I spent the next few days transforming the space into a reflection of myself, adding touches of color, warmth, and individuality that had been missing for so long. In the weeks that followed, I immersed myself in my business. I expanded my client base, took on new projects, and even launched a new product line. Every achievement was a reminder of my worth and capabilities, far beyond what Ryan or Evelyn had ever acknowledged. Surprisingly, word reached me about Ryan and Evelyn's struggles. Without my financial support, their lifestyle had crumbled. Evelyn had been forced to downsize, and Ryan was struggling to find stable work. The once overbearing duo was now grappling with the consequences of their choices. I felt no anger or satisfaction, just closure. They no longer had power over me, and that was all that mattered. One evening, as I was relaxing in my newly redecorated living room, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Lisa, I've been thinking about everything.
I'm so sorry. Can we talk?
Ryan." I stared at the message for a long moment before deleting it without a second thought. I had no room in my new life for apologies born of desperation. With time, I found joy in small things again, gardening in my backyard, hosting friends for dinner, and even taking up painting. Each day felt like a new chapter, one that I was writing for myself. The lessons I had learned stayed with me, the importance of standing up for myself, the strength I had to walk away, and the value of independence. My past was a part of me, but it no longer defined me. I was free, and I was ready for whatever the future held.